Every once in a while, the press asks a good question, a poignant question, a question that really gets to the heart without being aggressive, although that would be terrible, to hold Donald Trump and his underlings accountable for the facts and the lies and the conspiracies, all of it kind of intertwined. And Peter Alexander from NBC News, I think he's with NBC, he asked a brilliant question of Chief Donald Trump propagandist Karoline Leavitt yesterday outside the White House. All these people right now with the Doge and all the nonsense are acting as though there is rampant fraud. And Peter Alexander, he asked what should be a natural extension of that logic. Well, if you're finding fraud is a crime, have you forwarded these to the Department of Justice, these instances of fraud, felonies? Have you forwarded it to the DOJ for investigation and for prosecution of this fraud? And rather than say, oh, absolutely, you'd be happy to know we have, she says, oh, that's a really cute question. Actually, she says, that's a clever question. It's not clever. It's a legit question that you cannot answer. And then after the clip, we'll read a little bit from ProPublica to really point out where the fraud actually is. Watch Peter Alexander doing his job, earning that paycheck.
Fraud, of course, is a crime. So have you turned over evidence of fraud to the Justice Department? And when should we expect to see those indictments?
It's a clever question. There has been extensive fraud, particularly if you look at Social Security. In fact, according to an IG report from the Social Security Administration, there was $71 billion worth of fraud in one single fiscal year that we know about.
To be clear, that $71 billion was from 2015 to 2022, so it wasn't in just 1 year.
Okay. Great little mashup there of what took place. She said, well, first of all, she lies because they have to lie because the facts and the data and the research and all of the reality isn't on their side. In 1 year, this giant number, and it actually was 7 years, and she's still calling that fraud. Well, if that's the case, let's see some prosecutions. Nobody wants taxpayer dollars wasted fraudulently. Nobody wants that. You're not going to hear an elected Democrat out there like, oh, leave that alone. That's fine. That's fraud that we like. No one's going to say that. Forward it on. Let's see some prosecution, sister. Right? It's jingling keys before a baby to distract from something else. There's a video out there that I'm a bulldog owner, so I love bulldog content. And there's video that every once in a while, Brittany or I will send to one another. And it's this little puppy bulldog getting ready to get immunized. And the vet is distracting the bulldog with a spoon covered in peanut butter. And then when the puppy gets the peanut butter, he gives him the shot in the scruff of the neck. That's what they do with their fraud talk. It's a distraction so they can inoculate you with poison. I'm muddling the metaphor because the dog's not getting poison. It's getting medical care. But the actual fraud that's taking place in this country is on the part of Doge. It's on the part of Elon Musk. It's on the part of Donald Trump and this entire grifty nonsense. ProPublica is uncovering this. Here's the headline. ProPublica, by the way, if you're not familiar and you're not supporting them, you should. If you got a few dollars, you could, on a monthly basis, support this absolutely independent journalism that has broken bombshell stories over the course of the past, 6-8 years that I've been paying attention to them, up to and including the fact that they got a list of tax returns about billionaires who were not paying their taxes. Shocker, spoiler alert, Elon Musk was one of them. Here's the headline, though. Doge's millions as Musk and Trump gut government, their axe-cutting agency gets cash infusion. The Department of Government Efficiency is funded and acts like a federal agency, but the White House has shielded Doge from the rules that govern such agencies. ProPublica found as it examines the group and expands a list of Doge workers. Billionaire investor Musk has called Doge maximally transparent. President Trump has said that some 100 people work for the group, but his administration has refused to make information about Doge's spending and operations public. In an effort to gain a clearer understanding of Doge's inner workings, ProPublica has gathered the names and backgrounds of the people employed there. We've identified some 46 people, including 12 new names we are adding to the list today. Most of Doge's money, records show, has come in the form of payments from other federal agencies made possible by a nearly century-old law called the Economy Act. To steer those funds to the new department, the Trump administration has treated Doge as if it were a federal agency. The problem with this, and I'm going to continue here, but the problem with this is that federal agencies are led by cabinet-level officials who are put in office through the advice and consent of the Senate. You remember Article 2, Section 2, right? That he shall have the power, he, the president, by and with the advice and consent of the Senate to make treaties, provided 2/3 of senators present concur, and he shall nominate and by and with the advice of the Senate, the consent of the Senate, shall appoint ambassadors and other ministers and consuls, judges of the Supreme Court, and other officers of the United States. Well, the other officers of the United States would be cabinet-level officials who run agencies. And the reason this was written into the Constitution is because they need to hold these people accountable. It's because Congress has a check. One of the checks over the executives is advice and consent. The other is oversight and budgetary constraints and just needing to have an eye on what could be fraudulent behavior. And Donald Trump does not want oversight for Elon Musk. That's why they're lying to federal courts and saying he's not even involved with Doge. It's all lies. And it's going to take a while because courts take a while. We know that because Merrick Garland didn't get Donald Trump held accountable. Got all kinds of complaints today. And by dispatching members of its staff to other agencies and having those staffers issue edicts about policy and personnel, Doge has also behaved as if it has agency-level authority. The use of the Economy Act would seem to subject Doge to the same open records laws that cover most federal agencies, such as the Environmental Protection Agency or the State Department. However, Doge has refused to respond to Freedom of Information Act requests, saying it operates with executive privileges. Musk has also flip-flopped about whether Doge's staff members are paid. Initially, he said they were not, but earlier this week, he said some of them were. Remember, maximally transparent, he said. Maximally transparent. Yet, Freedom of Information Act requests get ignored, and we don't even know their names. It's only through reporting from the intrepid reporters of ProPublica and other journalistic outlets that we know anything, because they're not being transparent. Not minimally, not maximally, no transparency. The conflicting stances put the Trump administration in a bind, legal experts say. If Doge is a federal agency, it can't shield its records from the public. If it's not an agency, then Doge's tens of millions of dollars in funding weren't legally allocated and should be returned, some contend. Quote, the administration can't have it both ways, said Adam Grogg, a former deputy general counsel at the OMB and now legal director at Governing for Impact, a left-of-center think tank. Either it's an agency covered by FOIA, Freedom of Information Act requests, with the authority to do what it's doing, or it's purely advising the president and can't be directing agencies in the way that it is now. If it's fraud, it should be criminally prosecuted. If this is fraud, it should be criminally prosecuted. You don't get it both ways. I don't get it both ways. Fraud is fraud, no matter who's committing it. What do you think? I invite you to this conversation. You can click below and comment below to your heart's desire. That helps the algorithm share this content with new possible subscribers, and that's a win-win for everybody, right? You can also call the voicemail line 714-576-4054, or you can email me daily@dollemore.com. If you want to help support this work, help keep the lights on around here, and expand this operation, you can take part in helping me produce this content for $1.99 a month. Click the join button below this video and see what's involved, or you can go to patreon.com/IDoubtIt podcast. I love and appreciate you very much. Maybe I'll see you on social media where I am at Dollemore, or maybe I'll just see you next time. Be genuine. Take care of one another.